This is Secret Mom Hacks, episode number 21. My name is Krista, and I am your host. It's June 28th, 2023, and today's episode is another news briefing from the last few weeks. I've scoured the top parenting headlines so you don't have to, and I'm delivering you the latest news stories and trends so you can focus on being the awesome parent we all know you are. But before I get into all that, I just want to say thanks for tuning in, Mama. I started this podcast because babies don't come with instructions. As of this recording, I am chasing around a 4.5-year-old that no amount of Googling, mom groups, or what to expect books were able to prepare me for. There's a lot of stuff people don't talk about when it comes to pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, and postpartum. And as someone who was previously terrified of all of the above, I am here to help you pull back the curtain on all of it. And every now and then, it may get a little messy. We may share a little TMI, but that's why you're here, right? My goal is you will leave every episode feeling refreshed, inspired, and hopeful, knowing you are not on this mom journey alone. Now, we have a lot of subject matter to cover pertaining to mom life, and we are covering it all. So let's jump into these news highlights. Now, just like previous news briefing episodes, I will be linking to these stories in all of today's show notes. So don't feel like you have to stop what you're doing and take notes to write down all the details of each article. You can always go to secretmomhacks.com and click on the blog post for each podcast episode to find all of the show notes and details. Before I get into this month's news briefing, the specific articles themselves, I do want to preface this by saying there are some pretty hard topics covered for today's news briefing. As I was reviewing the headlines, there was just some heavy stuff. So I just want to forewarn you with that. Apologies in advance. If you are looking for something a little more lighthearted or humorous, today may not be the day on this specific episode. I will say, however, as I was reviewing the headlines, and like I said, I was just coming across some of the tougher topics, I then made it a point to specifically seek out something that was a little more friendly and lighthearted and relevant and tactical. So just know, get through these very informative news headlines, which, perhaps you are experiencing some of these things, or maybe you know somebody who is going through some of these topics. I think at the end of the day, the more information we all have, the more informed and educated decisions we can make as it comes to raising our kiddos and keeping our family safe, right? Now we're going to jump into these headlines. The first article is from today.com. It's called "After Their Daughter Swallowed Water Beads, These Moms Are Raising Awareness of the Dangers." And the subhead says, "Water beads are popular toys that are colorful, squishy, shiny, and well-known in children's emergency departments." Now, I'm not going to read this article to you because I know that you can likely review it yourself, or you can hear it yourself and get all of the details. But the fact of the matter is there are two moms who had really scary experiences with their babies and water beads. Both moms and babies had very similar experiences. So both babies consumed the water beads. And here's the thing. I don't know if you or your kiddos have ever played with water beads before or not, but when you get water beads, so when you first get them wherever you might purchase them, they look like rainbow sprinkles that you would put on a cupcake or on your ice cream. They look edible. They're super colorful. They're rainbow colored. They're little teeny tiny. They look like you could just pop them and eat them like a sprinkle, okay? So therein lies the biggest issue. Kiddos, they see sprinkles, right? And they immediately think, oh, I can put this in my mouth. They don't know that it's not a sprinkle and that it is a water bead. So these little babies who don't understand, I know that one of the babies was 14 months old, for example. This baby does not know the difference between a water bead and a sprinkle. It just sees a shiny object and thinks, oh, I've seen my sister or whomever put a sprinkle in their mouth because they ate it off their ice cream. They don't know that it's a water bead. So what happens is when when a water bead is consumed, once it goes down into the body and into the system, so they're little gel-filled balls. So as they get wet, they expand. So what was happening with these kiddos, they're ingesting the water beads. They start vomiting violently, just constantly like vomiting about every 30 minutes, one of them was. And finally, so they take the kiddo to the ER after lots of extensive searching and x-rays and so on. Doctors find out that the babies had accidentally ingested these water beads, which once again, it's like the size of an ice cream sprinkle. Once it's inside the body, it's moist, it's getting wet, and so it grows, and what happens is it creates an intestinal blockage. That is so super scary. Now, thank goodness these were not tragedies for these two specific families. Both babies came out fine on the other side. Surgery was involved, but they're both here and they're okay, but this could turn deadly. So this is why it's so super important to just be aware of the dangers of water beads. My kiddo has played with them. We have some in the house. I try to keep them very up and out of arm's reach. They're like, I'm short. I'm 5'2". I try to keep it on like at least 6 foot off the ground so she can't get anywhere near them. So that is definitely something you should be aware of if, especially this summer, so many of us are outside and we're looking for fun activities. Water beads are a great outdoor sensory activity to play with. Just be aware of the dangers of playing with them, especially if you have a really little one that isn't talking yet and doesn't understand words. You know, if you, my daughter now, who's almost 5, oh my goodness, she'll be 5 next month. My daughter, I can talk with her and say, hey baby, mommy doesn't want to take you to the hospital. Make sure you don't put any of these in your mouth, whether it's small and looks like this, and I'll hold up the package, or whether it's big and looks like this. This is not food. It does not go in your mouth. And she'll say, okay, mommy. You know, she's at that age where she's actually quite a chatty Cathy now. So I can warn her and talk with her about the dangers of water beads. But if your babies are really, really little, you've just got to watch them like a hawk. Or quite honestly, maybe you just don't let them play with them until they're a little older. That story will be over in the show notes, so make sure you go check it out for more details about these specific families' unique experiences. Now, I know this next headline is definitely making some waves. According to the New York Times, 7.5 million baby shark bath toys are recalled after reports of children being injured. It says that at least a dozen people have reported being injured by the toy. The top fins pose a risk of impalement, lacerations, and punctures, according to the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. Whoa. That is crazy and scary. So not only do we have to worry about sharks out in the ocean, but as so many of us are very fond of Baby Shark, and we've heard it 8 trillion times, 7.5 million of these Baby Shark toys are being recalled after these reports. There have been at least a dozen children injured. Both the full-size and mini-size versions of these toys are included in the voluntary recall. And apparently this was announced after complaints that children had been falling on or sitting on the full-size toy's plastic top fin. Now, according to the article, about 9 of the 12 reported injuries required medical attention or stitches, according to the commission. So if you have any of these little baby sharks floating around in a bathtub near you, make sure you get rid of it. The toy maker said in a statement that it was working with retail partners to remove and destroy the products. Now, if you go to the specific New York Times article, they go on to list the model numbers of all of the recalled toys. So make sure you check that out. It also says that consumers will receive a full refund of $14 for each full-size toy and $6 for each mini toy in the form of a prepaid virtual MasterCard. These next 2 stories are probably the most difficult of all of today's stories to talk about because they're dealing with postpartum depression. Now, I do not have any personal experience with postpartum depression. There were a lot of things I overcame and worked through following the birth of my daughter. Postpartum depression is not one of them. So I want to be straight up with you about that I do not have a personal experience to relate this to, but I do have several friends who went through it and came out just fine on the other side. They sought help. They got what they needed, and are here today and are able to speak hope and life into other parents who may be experiencing postpartum depression. But this first story I want to touch on is from goodmorningamerica.com, and the headline is "Mom Experiencing Postpartum Depression Dies by Suicide Days After Giving Birth." And the subhead reads, "Ariana Sutton's family hopes that by sharing her story, it can help other moms prioritize their mental health." Now, Ariana and her husband had already been through the pregnancy, birth, postpartum process with a little girl. They have, I believe she is a 4-year-old, super cute, and her husband in the video that accompanies the article talks about how following the birth of their first daughter, Ariana did experience postpartum depression, and it was for a series of weeks. And, with some help, she was able to get through that. And the video shows sweet videos of their family together and just how vibrant and happy and energetic they all look. Well, then they found out she was pregnant with twins, and she gave birth to the twins, and her husband shared in this video that what previously transpired over the course of a couple of weeks in terms of the postpartum depression took course over the course of just a few days. And as the article notes, that within just a few days following the birth of their twins, she took her own life. So I am not a therapist. I am not a counselor. I merely want to bring attention to this tragic story and the importance of taking care of ourselves and those that we love. If you know a mom who is experiencing postpartum depression, or even if you don't know if somebody is experiencing it or not, just new moms in general, it is so important to just have grace with one another and to just be there for each other. And so I highly encourage you to just familiarize yourself with this article and this topic, just the importance of prioritizing our mental health as it relates to postpartum depression. And then the article I want to follow that one up with is from today.com. It is also about postpartum depression. This one is about celebrity couple Thomas Rhett and Lauren Akins sharing their scary journey with postpartum depression. Now, if you don't know who Thomas Rhett and Lauren Akins are, Thomas Rhett is a country artist and Lauren Akins is his wife. She is an author, and the two of them have a ton of kids, several biological children and several that they have adopted. Their family is so, so sweet. And so with stories like this, it's of course unfortunate that they have gone through something like this, but I always think it's exciting to see people who are often in the spotlight. They're typically talking about their next project or their next book tour or musical tour or whatever. And so I applaud them for being vulnerable and getting out there and sharing that, hey, this is something I've experienced. It's relatable. It's not fun to talk about, but it needs to be talked about. And something that Lauren said in this article is that joint counseling and confiding in friends helped to identify the problem. She said that in the back of her mind, she knew this was not normal and that she had experienced birthing children before and had never felt like this. So I think that just is a testament to show every birth, every pregnancy, every experience with our children is going to be different. It's going to be unique. And just because somebody had postpartum depression with their first child doesn't mean that they're going to have it again, and vice versa. But it really is a serious issue that should not be taken lightly. And so I applaud TR and Lauren for bringing this out into the public and for discussing it and sharing it so that other people can relate and know, okay, I'm not alone in this. Everybody deals with this. Celebrities deal with this. my neighbors deal with this, and so on. And you know what? We can all get through this together. The next article I want to share with you today is from parents.com. They say that the AAP says weighted sleep sacks are unsafe for babies. So the largest pediatricians group in the US calls for voluntary safety standards for these popular products. How many of us have used the sleep sacks? I am over here raising my hand. I know you can't see me, but maybe you are too. Sleep sacks were crucial to helping my little one go to sleep. Sometimes the swaddles were dirty, those swaddle blankets. I hadn't done a load of clothes, and all we had was the sleep sack. Now, I will admit, I had never heard of a weighted sleep sack, but apparently this is a product that's been out on the market, and the American Academy of Pediatrics says that they are not safe. Back on June 15th is when they put a letter out to the Consumer Product Safety Commission saying that these products are dangerous for babies. So if you are using weighted sleep sacks, make sure you stop. Check out this article for more details. The next story is from Mashable.com, and it is titled Resources You'll Need for Raising an Anti-Racist Child. Books, websites, podcasts, and more resources for the journey you're on. This is a fantastic list of 22 resources, including how to be an anti-racist, addressing the ways structural racism shows up in children's lives and experiences. I have read How to Be an Anti-Racist, which was a phenomenal book. It also includes Our Skin, A First Conversation About Race, and Something Happened in Our Town, a child's story about racial injustice. There is also a great section of Google Docs, including a tip sheet from the Girl Scouts about taking action on racism, offering readers advice for how to start talking about race with their children, how to teach inclusiveness, and how to empower them to challenge racism when they see it. So I highly recommend you check out this article. I'm definitely going to look deeper into several of the resources that are listed because I haven't even heard of some of them. But I know that this is going to help me have some great conversations with my daughter about being an anti-racist. And lastly, here is the lighter article for you today. This is 26 travel products that'll be helpful for you and your kids from BuzzFeed, because we all know everybody's hitting the road this summer, taking great family vacations, or maybe you're just taking a little solo vacation away from your family. That's okay too. Sometimes we need that time away. But I thought this article was genius with some of the products they included. I'm going to pull out my favorites. The first must-have, of course, is a water bottle. You cannot hit the road without water. We've all got to stay hydrated, both you and your kiddos. Very, very important. Another must-have on this list is an Uno card game. Now, I don't know about you, but I love playing games. Uno is so easy. It's all contained in just this one little teeny tiny playing card box. Very easy to travel with, and it's a super fun game. So anytime you need to help entertain the kiddos, Uno is a simple game that you can pull out and everyone is going to enjoy. And the third item I want to flag on this list of 26 travel products is a kids travel tray. I have never seen this, and I thought it was brilliant. So this is a tray that fits right on their lap so that they can store their coloring pages and their crayons and their snack and their water or whatever, and things aren't just getting lost in their lap or falling on the floor. And it folds up super easily and even has a handy dandy carrying strap. This is brilliant. I don't own this product, but I think I'm gonna have to get it for myself. Definitely check out that full list for all of the must-have products you're gonna need for your next vacation, your next trip out of town, your next car ride. Maybe it's just to the park. I think you would find any and all of these products very helpful and convenient. So check the show notes for the details. Those are all the news items I have for today's briefing. So I'm bringing today's episode to a close, and I just want to remind you that it's hard to take care of those you love if you're not taking care of yourself. I think some of the news items in today's briefing were an important reminder of that. So this is your gentle reminder to stay hydrated, make time for a quick walk around the office, around your house, around the park. Maybe you can go for longer than 5 or 10 minutes. Are you able to step away for 30 minutes? Can you like sneak in an hour of just getting in some good heart pumping, sweat inducing activity? Can you do that? I believe you can. Okay, and even if you can't do an hour, 5 or 10 minutes is better than 0 minutes, okay? Don't forget to wash your face, slather on a great overnight moisturizer before you slip into bed, and don't forget that sunscreen in the morning. Your skin is going to thank you. Thanks so much for joining me on this episode of Secret Mom Hacks. I appreciate you spending time with me today and hope you found these news items helpful. If that's the case, please subscribe for free if you haven't already. Give me a 5-star rating and leave a review sharing your favorite takeaway so far. Make sure you stop by secretmomhacks.com where you can find transcripts, resources, and more. Now stay tuned for next week's episode, and until then, you've got this, Mama.